In 2009, my next guest quit her job as a clinic director for Planned Parenthood in Texas after observing an ultrasound during an abortion. Now, since then, she's become a leader in the pro-life movement and founder of And Then There Were None, a ministry helping abortion clinic workers to transition out of the industry. A decade later, her story is hitting the big screen. Her book about her journey, Unplanned, has been made into a movie set to be released this spring. Joining me now to discuss the film is Abby Johnson and the actress portraying her, Ashley Blatcher. Ladies, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to start with you, Abby. I remember it's been, I think, 9 years since we last talked about the book and your story. For those who might not know, what drew you to Planned Parenthood in the first place? What did you think you were doing when you came aboard that organization?
You know, I thought I was just there to help women. Didn't think I was there to sell abortion or promote abortion. I really believed the talking points that they had given me, that we were there to serve women, particularly low-income women, and that abortion was just something we did to keep women safe. It was sort of a necessary evil. And I learned that that was different through my years at Planned Parenthood, that we were actually selling abortions.
And you were there for 8 years.
8 years.
Wow. Now, tell us about that moment in 2009 when the lights came on for you.
Yeah.
What was that moment?
I was asked to come in and witness a live ultrasound-guided abortion procedure on a 13-week-old baby in the womb. And I watched in horror as this 13-week-old child was moving away from the abortion instruments, and it appeared that this baby was trying to fight and struggle to save his own life. And I knew then that there was humanity in the womb, and that abortion was taking an individual human being's life. And I knew that I was on the wrong side of this debate.
Wow. Ashley, how familiar were you with Abby's story when you first auditioned for this role?
I had no idea who Abby was. I'm so sorry. And when I got the audition and I read it, I thought maybe she continued working on at Planned Parenthood, that this was going to be a pro-choice film. It wasn't until after the audition that I was so compelled by what I read in the script that I looked up Abby. I saw her testimony online, and I was just shaken to the core. I was floored by what I'd heard, because I think, much like the general public, I didn't know what the actual abortion procedure entailed. And hearing her describe it, I was just crying on the floor.
Wow. When did you know you had the role?
The day that they sent me out to Oklahoma. I had auditioned weeks prior.
Where?
I taped myself in Atlanta and sent a tape in to the producer. Heard nothing. Nothing at all. I felt in my spirit very strongly that I was meant to play this role. It wouldn't leave me. It was different than any other thing I had ever auditioned for, but still just silence, complete silence, until a couple of days before I got word from the producers that they wanted me to retape with a different direction, and they said, we'll let you know by Monday. Monday came and went, never heard anything. And I thought, okay, well, this isn't mine. I had a conversation with them Monday night, and I thought, okay, this is it, I've got it. And they said, just so you know, we've got one other person in the running that we're really considering, so we don't know if it's going to be you yet. The next morning at 12 o'clock, 11:30, 12 o'clock, they called me and say, hey, can you get on a plane in 5 hours? Get ready to film in Oklahoma for 7 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, okay, I guess nothing's impossible.
Yeah.
And I called my husband, made arrangements for my child to get picked up at the bus stop, and got on a plane to Oklahoma.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of pro-life, I guess, leaving the kid behind.
That
might be considered a little anti-life, but I'm not going to dwell on that part of the story. Abby, I want to get back to, I'm coming back to you, though. This is a very interesting through line here in your personal life that I think people might want to hear about. Abby, there was a New York Times piece recently about the mistreatment of pregnant women who work at Planned Parenthood clinics. Now, you were pregnant when you were working at Planned Parenthood.
I'm always pregnant.
How were you? You're witnessing life all the time. Tell me, how were you treated, and was it discouraged to have children and to be pregnant at Planned Parenthood?
Yes, it was absolutely discouraged. I actually talked to the New York Times reporters, and they asked me, can you tell us anybody else who had a baby during your 8 years working at Planned Parenthood inside of your affiliate? and there was no one. I was the only person in 8 years who had a child. Now, I was not the only person that got pregnant. There were many of my coworkers that got pregnant, but when you work at Planned Parenthood, they offer you free abortions if you get pregnant. And so my coworkers had taken advantage of that perk and had abortions. I was encouraged almost daily during my pregnancy to have an abortion with my daughter. And I remember being so thankful when I finally hit 24 weeks, because at that time abortion was illegal after 24 weeks in Texas. And I thought, okay, finally the comments will stop.
I want to read you something. Dr. Leanna Wen is the new president of Planned Parenthood, who's been going around the country speaking about women's health care and that the organization provides that primarily. A recent headline from BuzzFeed entitled, "Planned Parenthood's New President Wants to Focus on Non-Abortion Health Care," caused Wen to tweet out the following. She said, "I am always happy to do interviews, but these headlines completely misconstrue my vision for Planned Parenthood. Our core mission is providing, protecting, and expanding access to abortion and reproductive health care." Now, she's clearly saying there that's the business model. Now, Planned Parenthood has long said that's not how they make their money, Abby. Your thoughts?
You know, I remember a few years ago when Trump took office, he told Cecile Richards, their previous president, if you guys will stop doing abortions, we will stop trying to defund you. If you really want to focus on women's health care, focus on women's health care, get rid of the abortions, we'll keep funding you. And I remember her Twitter response. She said, abortions, she said, at Planned Parenthood, abortions are as critical as cancer screening pap smears. And I thought, well, there you go. All of us who have worked at Planned Parenthood, we can attest to that. We can say, yes, that's absolutely their business model. I was encouraged, along with many others, to increase our abortion quota, to double our abortion quota. So we've known for a long time that this is about abortion. Honestly, I'm glad that they're just being honest about it, and that they're now not trying to hide behind the fact that they're a women's health care organization. Let's put it out like it is. Their highest revenue generating product, abortion.
Yeah, they claim it's 3% of their income. Now, I want to play a clip from the movie that actually speaks to this. This is from the movie Unplanned. Watch.
Abby, let me explain something to you. Fast food outlets look to break even on the hamburgers they sell. That's all they do, is break even. Do you know how they make their money?
No.
On the French fries and the soda, the low-cost, high-margin items.
Cheryl, I'm sorry, but I don't understand.
Abortion is our fries and soda.
But we're a nonprofit organization.
Nonprofit is a tax status, not a business model.
Did this happen this way, this exchange about fast food? Or is this dramatic license?
We did have a conversation similar to this about abortion being our low cost, high revenue, and the line where she says, I said, but we're a nonprofit. And she says, nonprofit is a tax status, not a business status.
Oh, boy. How involved were you in the shaping of this script? Were you on set also?
I was on set, and they sent me the script and said, tell us what you think, like, fingers crossed. And really, there were only a few minor things. They did such a good job at really sticking to the book, Unplanned, and the then subsequent writings, you know, through articles and things.
Right.
So it really wasn't a lot that I had to say, I don't like that. I mean, they...
I want to talk to you for a moment, Ashley. Was there any hesitation about accepting this role?
None whatsoever.
Given the subject matter, and that there are people who will go, you know what, this crosses the line for us.
No hesitation whatsoever. As soon as I saw Abby's testimony, I was compelled. I knew that this was a topic that we needed to discuss, and I wanted this film to be a conversation starter. Because when someone makes a complete 180 in their life, someone who is so pro-choice, such a women's advocate, and all of a sudden steps away from it, you have to stop and wonder why. So no matter where you stand on the issue, I think that this is a movie for everyone, because you will be touched by her story no matter what you believe.
Yeah, and this story actually touched you in a way you didn't expect. Tell people what happened. I mean, once you started sharing the storyline here with your family, you learned something.
Right. I left so fast for Oklahoma that I didn't have time to tell everyone where I was. My husband and my sister knew, and my son, obviously.
Yeah, your son's at the bus stop now, still waiting for you to pick him up, but go ahead.
He was in good hands.
Yeah, we're sending the cops for him. No,
So my mother called me on the 4th day that I had arrived for production, and I'm sitting in a salon getting my hair colored red, and I take the phone call because I need to let my mom know where I am. I mean, proper etiquette, right? And my mother had shared with me when she was younger, she had had an abortion in high school, and she mentioned that when she got pregnant with me when she was 19, that she had considered aborting, but that was not an option. She could never do that again. And that was the only conversation we ever had about it. It was very nonchalant. So when I went to explain Abby's story to her and let her know the role that I was playing, I was very careful because I didn't want her to feel judged. I didn't want to upset her in any way. And as I proceeded to explain everything within the story, she completely broke down. I could hear her uncontrollably weeping through the phone. And she said to me, "I need to tell you something that you never knew before. When I was pregnant with you, I was actually at the clinic. My name had been called. I had just been examined by a very pregnant nurse, and I was laying on the clinic table when I got very sick, and I decided that I couldn't go through with it. And I decided to get up and walk out, and I chose you. And I never knew that before accepting this role. And I think I get so emotional every time I tell the story because for me, I just sit in awe that God cares for us so personally that He would plan our steps from conception, that I would stand and be able to tell Abby's story, never having known my own story. You know, at some point, I think I'll start carrying tissues, but every time I tell the story, I think, oh, I'm not going to cry this time because I've told it a million times. But it never gets any easier to look at your life and examine all the experiences you've had and the relationships you've built and think that it almost never happened.
No, it's amazing. Stories, this is why stories are so important. And to share those stories, whether they're our own or other people's, I think it connects us and it helps us make sense of our world and allows us the freedom to talk about these other stories. Your father also confirmed, I know the story for you.
Yes. So my parents divorced when I was in college, and I called my father afterwards to have a conversation with him because I told my mom, I said, I just need some time to process this. And when I called him, he confirmed every detail. And I said, Dad, how is it that all these years no one ever told me? And he said, how do you tell your daughter that you intended to abort her? That never seems like an appropriate time to have that conversation. But he also confirmed that they were very young. They thought that this was their only solution, but they didn't have enough money for the abortion. So in order to pay for the abortion, my father pawned a family heirloom, which happened to be a shotgun. And that was another thing that just blew me away, that we view human life so cheap that it's the equivalent to a pawned shotgun, of all things. The beautiful part of that story is, though, that when my mom left that clinic, she used that money to buy maternity clothes and a crib and to prepare for me.
Wow, beautiful. Abby, what did you think when you heard this story? I mean, this had to give you, I mean, you hear a lot of these stories in your ministry, which we're going to get to in a second. But what did you think when you heard this?
You know, the first time that Ashley and I spoke on the phone, I felt a real connection to her, you know, which I had really prayed that I would, because I thought, oh, I want to like the actress.
Like, this would be awkward.
That would be weird. So I really prayed for that, and I loved her instantly. And I remember thinking, this is the person that God has planned to play this part. And then when she told me the story, I thought, oh my gosh, it was just further confirmation that her life was saved so that she can help show our culture and our society what we are doing to our unborn brothers and sisters. And what a great gift that God has given her. in this role, not just because it's about my story, but it's truly God's story. And he is using her in such a mighty and powerful way. And it's really beautiful and very touching.
I'll say, amazing how art and reality start intertwining and used for a higher purpose. Give me a sense, Abby, when you were last here, were you Catholic yet?
No.
When did you come into the church?
April of 2012.
Wow. And what was that process? What drew you there?
Well, when I first became pro-life, all of my new friends were Catholic.
Ah.
And so we were looking for a new church because the Episcopal church where we had been going fired us. They said, you're pro-life, you can no longer be here, which was fine because I didn't want to go there anyway. I sort of wanted to fire them. But anyway, and so we were looking for a new congregation, and all of our Catholic friends were really saying, you should come to Mass, you should come. And Doug and I had sort of grown up with some anti-Catholic sentiments, right, in our Protestant churches that we grew up in. And so we were like, ugh, no, we're not doing that. So one Sunday we said, look, let's just go to Mass. We'll go, we'll tell them we hated it, and then they'll stop bothering us. I mean, really, that's sort of what we thought. And
that never worked, you know.
it didn't work.
It never works.
It didn't work, Raymond.
I try to do that when people send me books and films. I didn't like. They keep coming at you. But go on.
So
taking
we
you
go.
off the
So my
path.
husband and I, we go to Mass, and we're sitting there, and I just remember walking away, and we both were sitting in the car, and we were just like, that felt right. Something about that, and it was shocking to us because we didn't think anything about the Catholic Church was right. But here we are, and it felt like home. And as soon as I told one of my new Catholic friends this, we were suddenly sitting in RCIA. And honestly, though, the more we learned about the church, the more we learned about this beautiful, rich faith, the more we realized that that was home. And so we, my husband and I actually came in to the church together, which was such a blessing. And we had our marriage convalidated. And so, yeah, it's been beautiful.
Now, tell me, as part of your work, you have brought 400 former Planned Parenthood clinic workers out of Planned Parenthood. What do they tell you? What's the fear? And why do they have to come to you for help to get out? I mean, it's a job. Can't they just leave?
Yeah. You know, it's not like working at some fast food restaurant. Number one, the spiritual warfare, intense.
I'll bet.
Even when they start deciding, maybe this isn't what I want to do anymore, the spiritual warfare starts coming at them. So there's that. But they are told that if you ever leave us, if you ever start talking about what you've seen here, we're going to take you to court.
Oh, boy.
You can never talk about what has happened here.
Sounds like a cult.
It is. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And you're really brainwashed while you work there. And they also tell these workers, if you leave, we will give you a bad reference. You will not be able to get another job. And so the fear is, number one, of course, lack of income, right? A lot of the workers that we have helped are single parents. Yeah. So they're working 50, 60 hours a week at the clinic. So, you know, how do you leave your job? How do you find another job when you're working that many hours? But the second thing is just fear of retaliation from the abortion industry. And so they have a team of us, you know, who can surround them and support them. And we have access to business owners, managers, and we can say, hey, are you willing to give this gal a shot?
Right.
And that makes all the difference. It makes them feel empowered enough to take that first step.
Before I let you all go, Ashley, I'll start with you. What do you want people to come away after seeing Unplanned? What do you want them to see, understand, and feel?
The first thing I'd like for people to recognize is an undeniable revelation that there is life within the womb, but also to understand that there is grace, there is hope, there is forgiveness. This is a story of redemption, that you've never gone too far, that you have outreached the Father's hand, that there you can always come back. And there's also a beautiful love story here. Doug loves Abby unconditionally, and I think he really exhibits the love of Jesus in a marriage. So it's a beautiful story of hope and definitely a conversation starter.
A powerful piece. What did you think when you first saw it? It's got to be surreal watching your life unfold on the screen and a dramatic moment in your life.
It was weird. Yeah, it's still weird.
Yeah.
I've seen it a bunch of times. It's still weird. The first time I watched it, I kept thinking to myself, I kept reminding myself, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for God. Because it's difficult to watch the most challenging, the most sinful moments of your life played out on a screen for the public to see. But I just had to keep reminding myself that this is for God. This is for His glory. And if the expose of my sin will cause one person to turn to Him or turn back to Him, then it's worth it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you both for being here and for your beautiful stories and witness. Thank you both.
Thank you.